Okay, we have a very interesting article here from June 19th. Author Elaine Watson. Titled the article is Ag Spray Drones Battle Heats Up as U.S. Lawmakers Target Chinese Drone Maker DJI Technologies. And it says, this will be a job killer in rural America. So the article begins, proposed legislation targeting Chinese drone maker DJI Technologies could have a devastating effect on the U.S. agricultural sector, claimed opponents this week, as an amendment designed to curb DJI's activities in the U.S. was tagged onto a defense spending bill moving through Congress. Introduced to the U.S. House of Representatives in April 2023, the Countering CCP Drones Act, H.R. number 2864, would add equipment and services from DJI, the market leader in ag spraying drones in the U.S., to something called the covered list. This would prevent DJI from getting FCC, Federal Communications Commission, licenses for future drone models and potentially lead to the revocation of existing FCC authorizations. While the bill isn't new, the move to tack it onto the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, which passed in the House last week, has sharply focused minds in the ag sector, which is heavily reliant on DJI drones. Should similar provisions be added to the Senate version of the NDAA, and the NDAA is signed into law, it could come into effect by the end of the year. And that would spell bad news for U.S. farmers, who have been steadily increasing their use of spray drones in recent years, with 3.7 million acres sprayed by drones in 2023 across 41 states and 50 crops, mostly by Chinese-made drones. AgriSpray Drone CEO Taylor Moreland told AgFunder News. So, quote, not allowing people to operate Chinese-made drones in rural communities would be a job killer in rural America, unquote. So the first bullet point here says the American Drone Security Act, passed in late 2023, prohibits federal agencies from acquiring unmanned aircraft systems, UASs, produced by certain foreign entities, including DJI Technologies. It says here, a 2017 Department of Homeland Security intelligence bulletin claimed that the Chinese government is likely using information acquired from DJI systems as a way to target assets they are planning to purchase. For instance, a large family-owned wine producer in California purchased DJI UAS unmanned aircraft systems to survey its vineyards and monitor grape production. Soon afterwards, Chinese companies began purchasing vineyards in the same area. It says here, Hylio CEO, we've been in agricultural information war with China for years. Supporters of the bill claim DJI's drones could send sensitive data to the Chinese government, while U.S. drone maker Guardian Agriculture has described DJI drones as the ultimate Trojan horse with the potential to go rogue mid-flight thanks to over-the-air software updates. Arthur Erickson, CEO at U.S. drone maker Hylio, told Ag Thunder News, I do believe there are legitimate security concerns, although I don't think an outright ban is necessarily the right strategy. We've been in an agricultural information war with China for years, and while it doesn't sound dangerous, if you had enough drones scanning and spraying enough cropland to get a big enough sample size, with AI and modern data analysis, you can make a pretty good prediction about what U.S. agricultural production is going to look like for a given season. And that's going to give China economic leverage. If you want to talk about doomsday scenarios, if they had enough drones, they could overspray for an entire season and wipe out crops. Adam Berchu, CEO of Guardian Agriculture, which is now manufacturing drones in Massachusetts and has sales orders amounting to 9 figures, added, we need to have the best products possible for the American grower, and I think that the American farmer is underserved by only being offered products designed for the domestic Chinese market that are frankly inappropriate for Western growers. Our productivity per dollar on the machine and operational costs on a per acre basis are 70% to 85% less than the Chinese drones because they're built for Western style productivity. We think the U.S. government should support the domestic industry as China is clearly supporting its domestic industry. We've seen the U.S. government do this with electric vehicles, so something like that would make a lot of sense with drones. where many countries are scrambling to develop domestic capabilities. These devices are classified as chemical weapons delivery systems by the federal government. It is okay to have thousands of machines that can carry 10 plus gallons of poison that can be remotely controlled and connected to an adversarial foreign entity? DJI. Our drones do not collect flight logs, photos, or videos by default. DJI in turn has argued that supporters of the bill are making inaccurate and unsubstantiated allegations regarding DJI's operations and have amplified xenophobic narratives in a quest to support local drone manufacturers and eliminate market competition. DJI drones do not collect flight logs, photos, or videos by default, and operators have to opt in to share this data with us, explained a recent blog post by the company, which has instead called for the establishment of industry-wide drone security standards that are technology-based, not country of origin-based. As for drones going rogue mid-flight, says the company, those who want to take extra precautions can easily choose to activate local data mode and even switch on their mobile's airplane mode for added peace of mind. This means the flight app is completely disconnected from the internet and is similar to an air-gapped computer. Based on DJI's ties to the CCP, the administration has shown that DJI is a threat to our national security and has already placed the company on multiple government entity lists. Our legislation will further protect our communications equipment while strengthening American supply chains by ensuring foreign manufactured technologies that pose serious security threats such as DJI's cannot operate in American networks. Raja Krishnamurthy, ranking member of the Select Committee on the CCP. So, Hylio CEO Arthur Erickson, quote, "We haven't scaled the way China has, so it's hard to compete on price, but in terms of performance, I think American technology can match and even exceed what they're doing on ag drones. Our machines are also sturdier, and I think we have better customer support." Fear mongering. U.S. companies that supply drones from DJI to U.S. ag retailers and farmers, meanwhile, say any information that spray drones could supply to China is already publicly available through sources including the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and that many supporters of the bill are fear mongering. Brian Sanders, president at full service industrial drone company HSE, and a drone industry veteran, told us it's hot to be anti-China right now, and DJI has kind of become the whipping child in all this, but this technology provides nothing that you can't gather from other publicly available resources on planting and crop production. And if you want maps, go to Google Earth. If you want to see what pesticides are being used and in what quantities, you can go to the EPA website. He added, "What we're seeing is a lot of fear-mongering and scenarios that sound scary, but if you really look at what's being said, you can quickly debunk it." Asked whether lawmakers that have been contacted by opponents of the bill in recent days are sympathetic to their concerns, Sanders said, "The feedback that I've had is that most state reps have no idea how much this would impact agriculture. But I feel confident that given the revolt that's happening with thousands of people contacting their state reps about this, they will see just how catastrophic this will be for U.S. farmers and carve out an exemption for agriculture applications or something to that effect. A job killer in rural America." According to Taylor Moreland at AgriSpray Drones, we sold maybe 100 spray drones in our first year, 2021, around 300 in our second year, 2022, and 730 here, 2023. So the market is growing rapidly. We've tested multiple drones from firms including Hylios, China-based XAG, and DJI, and found DJI to be the best option in terms of durability and reliability, redundancy, performance, affordability, and ease of use. Asked about the security concern raised by lawmakers, he said sensitive areas such as military facilities, airports, or critical infrastructure sites are already no-fly zones, and spray drones aren't producing detailed maps anyway. The only thing they can really tell you is how much liquid was applied in a certain area and not even what liquid it is. Plus, for those enterprise drones that take pictures for surveying and things like that, they have a mode that does not allow any file transfer via wireless. On our DJI Agros drones, we operate 100% without internet in the field, and most people do, added Moreland. Even if you could somehow take them over and go rogue, they have a battery life of 8 to 12 minutes. Just because a drone is manufactured in the U.S. does not mean it's secure. Instead of measuring a product security on country of origin, Congress should call on experts to establish a clear list of technology-based performance standards that apply to all drone manufacturers. Quote, DJI Technologies. So, photo credit here. Spray drones are increasingly used to complement traditional ground spraying systems for difficult to reach areas, soggy ground, or areas where greater precision is required than can be delivered by manned aerial spraying vehicles such as planes and helicopters, says Rantizo. We don't have U.S. manufactured alternatives that are competitive in terms of cost or performance. Mariah Scott is CEO at Rantizo, which works with drone operators in 35 states, primarily deploying drones made by DJI and fellow manufacturer XAG. According to Mariah Scott, demand is outstripping supply, and domestic drone manufacturers cannot fill the gap either in price, availability, or performance. She told AgFunder News, things changed when the bill was added as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act. It may or may not have survived an actual vote on its own, but now it's attached to a must-have piece of legislation, which will also reduce the level of scrutiny that it might otherwise have, so people could see its impact not just on agriculture but public safety, firefighting, for example, law enforcement, construction, and so on. She added, the Senate Armed Services Committee is currently marking up the Senate's version of the NDAA, and some senators will offer potential amendments, one of which might be a version of what the House added on DJI drones. The committee proceedings are not public, but we hope to find out in the next month. The messages we want to get across to lawmakers is about the impact this would have on farmers and rural communities where spray drones have been a phenomenal boon, and without DJI, we don't have U.S. manufactured alternatives that are competitive in terms of cost or performance. Spray drones have tremendous positive benefits for U.S. farmers. According to Scott, speed and payloads on spray drones have been steadily increasing, while being able to fly much closer to the crop than planes and helicopters reduces drift, and overspray enables farmers to access areas where they can't install a ground rig due to excessive rain, for example. Spray drones have tremendous positive benefits for U.S. farmers and rural economies, enable them to compete on the global stage against firms in countries like Brazil, she added, and we want our farmers to have access to the best technology. Carving out an exemption for agricultural drones in the bill could recognize the benefits of these spray drones and that they aren't the same as these imaginary drones that lawmakers might have some concern about, and also recognize that we don't have U.S. alternatives, added Scott. I mean, we would love it if the U.S. government would support funding for U.S.-based manufacturers so we could have equally effective and affordable U.S. alternatives, but currently that is not the situation. If the proposal becomes law, she said, there are thousands of DJI drones already out there, and they will continue to be great tools, but this will impact new models and probably mean that for farmers, drone technology becomes more expensive and harder to buy. Local data mode. In a June 10th webinar featuring Scott and other players in the spray drone business, Drone Nerd's Chief Revenue Officer Brad Smith said all drones, regardless of country of origin, need to adhere to the best practices in cybersecurity standards, and the drone industry can leverage established practices, protocols, and certifications to ensure safety. Several audits have been performed on DJI technology and have found DJI to have met rigorous security standards. But beyond audits, DJI and other drone manufacturers also have local data mode, allowing the device to operate offline so you can turn off auto-syncing of flight logs and ensure your RC remote control is not connected to the internet. Jeff Clack at Bestway Ag added, the Chinese government is allowed to request data from any Chinese company, and DJI is no exception. But the data actually going to be useful in any way? The answer to that is no. End of article. So this article from Elaine Watson says that there's a piece of legislation going through both the House in D.C. and the Senate with amendments and committees making adjustments to the legislation, and the standalone piece of legislation has now been pegged onto the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, so it would be harder to critique, or at least harder to let it not stand the criticism and critique if it were to be standalone. So after reading this article, it seems that the majority of the people that have been interviewed in this article understand that Chinese drone companies are greater quantity, greater supply, and the United States government is not doing enough to protect local industries, to even subsidize local competition for drone manufacturers, and certainly not to protect local farmers. Um, so it seems that from this article, even in a worst case scenario, um, not a whole lot of information to be collected that wouldn't otherwise be easy and readily available to be aggregated and found on other government websites or similar databases. So my opinion also from this article is that it's if they were to pass the legislation, should be critique on specifically agricultural drones. We know that these drones are considered basically airborne devices that can emit poisons, so they're highly regulated, but it doesn't really pass the threshold of national threat in any way, because the pros outweigh the cons. The farmers need it. The one critique that the quote from the title is that this will be a job killer in rural America is more along the lines of, okay, is it truly a job killer if the drones stop? Because you have the more economical drones potentially being forbidden because, let's say, this law passes. But doesn't that just mean that we're going back to either American drones at a higher price, or we're going back to local labor, or we're now employing the crop sprayer or helicopter pilot or a bunch of other manual labor to cover the parts of the farmland that uh, were previously covered by the Chinese drone? Um, so when it says it's a job killer, it seems that, okay, if the drones were to stop coming from China, we would have a substitution. And if it were to go back to true raw hard labor, then it's a net positive for job creation. The drones are actually making farmers much more efficient, because a drone versus a human being can cover more land, or a drone versus a outside pilot or helicopter pilot is much more economical. The price of the drone probably covers itself much faster, probably within um, one season. The drone pays for itself, and if the drone is to have a shelf life of multiple farming cycles, the drone has already paid for itself, because it's cutting out manual labor and it's cutting out outside contractors. So the drone should be paying for itself, and that makes the farm and the farm operator more profitable, because there's less cost. So yeah, I think too many pros for why this there's a little bit of overreaction. There's too many pros to keep the drones and keep the faucet fully turned open and on, and just a few not so strong arguments about how this is a threat to national security, etc. And with the abundance of information online, this is probably really very low priority for the U.S. government. And as somebody said in this article when interviewed, um, the United States government is dropping the ball in so many areas. So it's kind of too little, too late, anyways, if they were to now go through the motions of saying that they suddenly care about farmers, because they haven't shown that initiative or incentive up to this point in time. So it's kind of falling on deaf ears. So that's our 2 cents on this article. Very well written again. Interesting article to argue both sides of the story, and we've opined where we stand on this. Where we stand on this Chinese drone potential ban moving forward in the United States.